Taika Waititi's Thor: Love and Thunder was meaningless. I call it Taika Waititi's because the entire movie has his vibe. This isn't a review thrashing him. I love most of his work, and he made one of my favorite movies of all time. But guys, there's something I kinda need to tell you. I didn't really like Thor Ragnarok. And this isn't because I'm a contrarian and a love hater. It's because I personally feel like it didn't do the character of Thor justice. When I was told that the MCU fixed Thor in this film, I expected him to be like Thor in the new comics, an angry and damaged person with a tested ideal. Kinda like what the Russo brothers did in Infinity War and Endgame. When I heard there was going to be a Thor 4, I thought it would build on the damaged Thor that was from Endgame, but no. Thor is just a fun joke time. At first I was upset, but I thought since Taika was solely writing this time, he would help fix it. And have Gore, a character from the comics who's one of the most dark and strongest villains, ever, have him snap back to reality, but he never did. In fact, Gore's character was completely butchered in this film.
Ironic. Okay, so what makes the movie bad? Well, it starts with Gore's daughter dying. No, this isn't how the film should start. A problem with this film is that when it doesn't have things to pass time, the characters just sit around making stupid jokes. Instead of seeing Gore's daughter, Love, it's a stupid name, I'll talk about it later. It should start with Gore going to Omnipotent City and killing Zeus. This establishes that Gore is someone to be feared. It also lets the cast figure out more about Gore as the film goes on. And look, I'm not against humor. I just don't feel like it should be included at times it shouldn't. And definitely not forced! I heard somewhere there was an hour and a half of footage taken out of the film, and honestly feels like that. It just seems as if everything here was just smudged together. Okay, next, the Guardians. When I heard they were including the Guardians, I immediately assumed James Gunn was gonna help, but he obviously didn't. I get he was making Peacemaker and such, but y'all can have like a Zoom call. But anyways, I get they don't really need to be here, and I'll talk about that later, but what about Quill? Wasn't his dad kinda like a god? But okay, whatever. Gore just wants to kill the official. But what about the beings with power that do as much as the gods or do more destruction as the gods? Why didn't he try and kill the Eternals? And don't tell me he didn't have time. Well, luckily, I read the comic this is based on, and Gore had been doing this for years, dozens of years, which sounds long. Considering how many gods he killed in that span of time, it sounds hella short. Not like, what, a week? So he just never thought that any godlike beings mattered, huh? Thanos wasn't like that? That aside, another problem I have is with Jane's character. And yes, they did upgrade her from the wondrous damsel in distress from the early Thor films, but I never thought of Jane as this humorous, confident badass. I get people use humor to help trauma, even current trauma. This can be a way to relate with Thor and Jane. But why is she making jokes outside the hospital room? If I was her, a scientist, I'd probably be sketching down cures. Or maybe after Thor and her broke up, she started to see the world in a different way. Maybe she grew depressed, and finding out she got cancer broke her. But this can help the new Thor, and help us understand the correlation between this new happiness and Jane's. Maybe Thor can help her see the good in the world, and taking her to these beautiful places to help her. But with Gore, he might try and use her power to his advantage. That's for sure something comic Gore would do. It could influence Jane's character arc and make her come full circle. Maybe we get to see what actually makes someone worthy. That could play on Gore's motivation and how the gods are selfish. Maybe the only reason Gore could harness the Necro Sword is because of his hate, his pain. You could draw Jane to it throughout the film, but her will to stay with Mjolnir can stop that. But what else makes her worthy? Usually, in the comics, someone who is worthy is someone who would sacrifice everything to save a life. And since Thor is a god, he can't prove that, especially in the condition he's in right now. But with Jane, a human on the brink of death, we can show through the film how she will risk it all and give someone else who is dying as well the chance of life. This can bring real purpose to Lady Sif's death and the word love, pain, thunder, love. And you know what else Jane is? All three. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the video and watching it. If you liked it, please consider subscribing and putting the bell notifications on. It really helps the channel and could probably help me afford a new mic that sounds better and probably an easier way of editing and releasing these videos. So anyway, this is basically it, so goodbye.